Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about the Internet of Things.
The IoT.
IoT, exactly.
Yeah.
You've brought me a couple of things to look at today, right?
Yeah.
We've got an APNIC blog post, which is all about security.
Yeah, kind of the more technical side of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a TWI article, which seems to be a bit more big picture.
Yeah, the applications and kind of the wider implications of the technology, I guess.
Okay, so let's jump into it. I guess the first question would be, what actually is the Internet of Things? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, well, I think the TWI article defines it pretty nicely.
Right.
It says it's basically a network of physical objects, embedded with sensors, software, all these technologies that basically let them connect and exchange data over the internet.
Okay, so it's like our phones are part of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Smartwatches.
Yeah, all those consumer gadgets.
Yeah, but it's bigger than that, right?
Yeah, it's way bigger than that. I mean,
Right.
they're talking billions of devices already connected, so.
Yeah. Billions of devices.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay. So give me an example of something that would be part of the Internet of Things that, maybe people wouldn't think about.
Okay, well, how about a hospital bed that can monitor the patient's vital signs and adjust itself for their comfort and safety?
Okay, yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, or even the Ocean of Things project. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
They're using sensors to understand marine environments and track vessel activity.
So we're talking on a global scale.
Yeah, exactly. And it all feeds back into research and conservation efforts.
So it's not just about convenience.
Yeah.
It's got the potential to, really impact things.
Yeah, huge implications, yeah.
Wow, okay. But, how did we even get here? Did the Internet of Things, just appear one day?
Well, actually, the TWI article has this fun fact.
Okay.
The very first internet-connected appliance was a Coca-Cola vending machine
Well,
back in 1982.
get out of here.
Yeah, it could report its inventory and temperature, let people know if there were cold drinks available.
1982, a Coke machine on the internet.
Yeah, pretty crazy, huh?
That's amazing.
But the idea, conceptually, it really took shape in the 90s.
Yeah.
A guy called Mark Weiser.
Right.
He wrote this paper in 1991 where he basically envisioned this future where computers were seamlessly integrated into everyday life,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Okay.
And then in 1999, Kevin Ashton, he coined the term Internet of Things.
Right.
Although, funnily enough, he actually preferred Internet for Things because he really wanted to emphasize the potential
I see.
rather than just the connection itself,
So we're talking about making life better,
Exactly.
not just connecting things for the sake of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the seeds are planted, the term was coined, and now we're seeing the full potential of IoT unfolding across different sectors,
Yeah.
like healthcare, transportation, agriculture. The TWI article mentions all of that.
Yeah.
So what's a really concrete example of IoT's impact that our listeners can relate to,
Okay, well, imagine a world where your bed could not only adjust for your comfort, but also alert nurses if it detects potential health issues,
Right.
allowing for quicker intervention, right?
Wow, that's incredible.
Or think about cars that can communicate with manufacturers and each other,
Oh, yeah.
leading to smoother traffic flow, increased safety on the roads.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking about potentially life-saving applications,
Right.
improvements to our daily lives.
Absolutely.
But with all this connectivity, all these billions of devices,
Yeah.
what about security? I have a feeling that's where the APNIC blog comes in.
Yeah, definitely. All this amazing potential comes with new risks as well.
Okay, so spill the beans. What are we talking about here? What are the big, scary security threats that keep you up at night?
Well, one major concern is these large-scale botnet attacks,
Okay.
where hackers take over tons of devices, sometimes millions, to carry out, malicious activities.
Right.
And then another big one is the vulnerability of home routers.
Our home routers.
But yeah, they can become gateways for attackers to get into corporate networks.
So our home routers could be putting sensitive information at risk.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, we're talking about personal data, financial information, even corporate secrets.
Oh, wow.
All at risk if these devices aren't secure.
And what's scary is the APNIC blog post says even devices designed with security in mind can have vulnerabilities.
Right, exactly.
And they mentioned something called EUI64, which apparently can compromise privacy, even if the device is using privacy extensions.
Yeah, it's a bit technical, but basically it's a feature meant to simplify things.
Okay.
But it can inadvertently create a pattern that lets someone figure out information about other devices on the network.
So even if my device is secure, This EUI64 thing could be revealing information about other devices on my network.
That's the risk.
Okay, so this is getting a bit over my head, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the takeaway is that security in the Internet of Things isn't just about individual devices.
Right, it's about the whole ecosystem and how everything interacts.
And the potential vulnerabilities that can arise from those interactions.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're not just talking about, like, theoretical risks here.
Right.
We're talking about real-world consequences.
Right.
So paint a picture for me. What could happen if these security threats aren't addressed? What's the worst-case scenario?
Well, imagine hackers taking control of critical infrastructure like power grids or transportation systems.
Okay, that's terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
Or think about industrial espionage where sensitive data is stolen from companies,
Tough.
causing economic damage.
Right.
On a personal level, data breaches could expose your financial information, medical records, even your browsing history.
Okay, so it's like a Pandora's box of potential problems.
Yeah, pretty much.
It seems like we need to be, like, extra vigilant about what we connect to the internet and how we protect ourselves
Absolutely.
in this increasingly interconnected world.
Yeah, vigilance is key.
Okay, but before we spiral into, like, a cyber doomsday scenario,
How close?
let's talk about solutions, right?
Yeah, of course.
There's got to be ways to mitigate these risks.
Absolutely. There are things we can do, both individually and as a society.
Okay.
One key area is strengthening security protocols.
Okay.
For example, most consumer IoT devices currently rely on TLS 1.2 for encryption,
Okay.
which, it's not totally ineffective, but
Okay.
it's starting to show its age.
So it's like an outdated map. It might get you there, but you might run into some roadblocks along the way.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. The newer TLS 1.3 offers more robust security, but adoption is still low.
Right.
And there's ongoing work to develop even more secure protocols, specifically for IoT devices, because they have their own unique challenges.
So it's a constant race between improving security and those trying to exploit vulnerabilities.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, that's a bit sobering.
Knuckles?
But what about solutions beyond just improving the technical side of things?
Right.
The APNI's blog mentioned something called decentralized networks.
Right,
like
yeah.
The Helium network.
That's an interesting one.
Could that be part of the solution?
It's definitely a promising development, yeah.
Okay.
The Helium network uses a blockchain-based system.
Blockchain.
Yeah, to incentivize individuals to host hotspots.
Okay.
So it's like a crowdsourced infrastructure for IoT.
Okay.
The idea is by distributing control and data across multiple nodes,
Okay.
it becomes more resilient to attacks. There's no single point of failure.
So it's like taking the power away from a single central hub and spreading it out among a network of individuals.
Yeah, exactly.
That does sound more resilient.
Yeah, it's kind of like going back to the roots of the internet,
Okay, yeah.
more decentralized.
But I imagine there are challenges with this model as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Decentralized networks raise questions about governance and accountability, right?
Like who's in charge?
Yeah. Who sets the rules? How do we ensure data privacy and security when there's no central authority?
Right.
These are all things that need to be figured out as the technology evolves.
Okay, so decentralized networks. Opportunities and challenges.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin, really.
Right. But before we get lost in the technical weeds here, I want to step back and ask a really fundamental question.
Okay.
Who owns all this data that's being generated by these billions of connected devices?
That's a good question. It's one of the most complex and nuanced aspects of IoT, I think.
Okay.
The TWI article touches on it.
Yeah, it does.
The truth is, no one technically owns the data in the same way you own a physical object, right?
Okay.
But various entities have rights to collect, store, and use it depending on the context and the laws and regulations.
Right. And different countries have different approaches.
Yeah, exactly.
The article mentions Europe specifically.
Yeah, they seem to have a pretty structured approach.
Okay, so what's their take on data ownership?
Well, in Europe, database rights are determined by three main things.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's the definition of the database itself.
Okay.
It has to be organized, structured in a way that allows for retrieval. Second, there's the gathering of the data, which involves investment in collecting, verifying, and presenting it.
So it's not just about the data itself, it's about the effort put into collecting and organizing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, there has to be an economic and business connection to an EEA state to qualify for database rights in Europe.
So there has to be a clear economic tie to Europe.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so it sounds like they're trying to protect both the creators and users of these massive data sets.
Yeah, it's an attempt to strike a balance in a really complex landscape.
Right.
But even with these regulations in place, the question of data ownership in the age of IoT is still a thorny issue.
And for our listeners, I think the most important question is,
Yeah.
are we comfortable with how our data is being used?
Exactly.
Do we even know what's being collected and by whom?
That's the crux of it all, I think.
Yeah.
As we get deeper into this world of IoT, it's crucial to be aware of the data trails we leave behind. We need to be informed consumers, understand our rights, and make conscious choices about the technologies we embrace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly given us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
We've explored the definition and evolution of IoT, its transformative potential, and the critical security and data ownership challenges that come with this interconnected world.
For sure.
But we're not done yet. Stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into the Internet of Things, exploring potential solutions, ethical considerations, and what the future holds for this rapidly evolving technology.
Absolutely, yeah.
So stick around. We've been talking about just how massive the Internet of Things is, its potential to completely change industries, and those security concerns, like the really serious ones.
Yeah.
But now I kind of want to zoom in on something that affects us all directly, our data.
Right.
We touched on how tricky data ownership is.
Yeah.
But let's dig into what it all means for us as people just trying to navigate this world where everything's connected.
I think you're spot on. Data privacy is like the biggest thing with IoT.
Yeah.
It's not only stopping hackers,
Right.
it's understanding how our personal stuff gets collected, shared, used in this whole system.
It's like we're constantly making data without even realizing it,
Yeah, for sure.
Our smartwatches are tracking our steps, our heart rate.
Yeah.
Our smart speakers are listening to everything.
Right.
Our fridge knows what we eat.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed, like we've lost control.
It's a valid concern. I mean, even that TWI article, they use smart meters as a perfect example.
Okay.
They can track energy use in real time.
Right.
Which would be good, helps us be more efficient.
Right, yeah.
But who has access to all that? And what are they doing with it, besides just seeing how much energy we're using?
So they could be using our energy use to figure out other things.
Potentially, yeah.
Like our daily routines, when we're at work, when we're on vacation.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Utility companies say it's for managing the grid.
We're keeping things running smoothly.
Okay.
But people are worried about, price discrimination.
Right.
Building profiles about our habits for marketing.
Feels like we're constantly trying to find a balance between all the good stuff a smart world offers and the potential risks to our privacy.
For sure.
Where's the line?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The TWI article really pushes for transparency, informed consent.
Right.
We got to know what data is being collected, how it's being used, who can see it.
Right.
And we need real choices about whether we share it at all.
Sounds like companies need to be upfront.
Yeah.
And we need to be more aware as consumers.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street.
Can't just click agree without knowing what we're getting into.
Nope. Exactly.
So what can we actually do to take back some control of our data? It feels kind of hopeless against these big tech companies.
Yeah, I get that.
With their fancy data collection.
Being informed is a big first step, honestly. Before you buy that new gadget, ask yourself, what data does it collect?
Yeah.
How's it used? Who can see it?
Right.
And are the benefits worth the privacy risk?
Okay.
Choose stuff that matches your values.
So it's not just about the shiny new toy.
Right.
It's about being mindful about our data.
Exactly.
But even if we're trying our best, it's tough to stay on top of everything.
It is, yeah.
Right.
That's where regulations come in.
Okay.
And good privacy controls.
Yeah. Stuff we can actually understand.
Exactly. We need rules.
Yeah.
Clear guidelines for data collection and ways for people to control their own data.
Okay, imagine if devices had privacy settings that were actually simple.
Right. Easy to choose what we share.
Yeah.
That would be huch.
But going back to security for a sec, that APNIC blog talked about how even secure devices can be vulnerable. They brought up EUI64 and privacy extensions.
Yeah.
Can you break that down again? What should we be looking out for?
Sure. So EUI64, remember, it's that automatic device identifier.
Right. Yeah.
The problem is it can create this pattern that lets someone get info about other devices on your network.
Oh, okay.
Even if they're using those privacy extensions.
So even if my smart TV is trying to protect its data, this EUI64 thing could be revealing info about my laptop
Exactly.
or other devices in my home network.
Yeah, privacy extensions mask the device's ID
Right.
to make it harder to track.
Okay.
But EUI 64 can kind of bypass that.
So it's a whole ecosystem thing.
It is, yeah.
Not just about one device.
Exactly. Security's complicated.
Seems like we need to be more aware of all these little details.
Yeah.
Even if we're not all cybersecurity experts.
Right.
Can't just assume things are safe because they say they are.
Nope.
What else can we do to protect ourselves?
Strong passwords are a must.
Okay. Yeah, that's always a good one.
Use different ones for everything.
Right.
Avoid those easy-to-guess ones.
Right.
Two-factor authentication, if it's available. Adds an extra layer.
Yeah.
And keep your software updated.
Right.
Updates usually have security patches to fix those newly discovered vulnerabilities.
So it's not a one-time thing.
No,
Cybersecurity is an ongoing battle.
it is, for sure.
Okay, let's get back to solutions for a more privacy-respecting IoT.
Okay.
We talked about decentralized networks.
Yeah, the Helium network.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on how that approach could help with some of these concerns we've been discussing?
Sure. So with decentralized networks,
Mm-hmm.
control and data are spread out
Right.
instead of relying on one central authority.
Right.
This can make them harder to attack because there's no single weak point.
Makes sense.
And since the data isn't all in one place,
yeah.
it's harder for unauthorized people to access and misuse it.
So it's like a more distributed system
Yeah.
for the Internet of Things,
Exactly.
where everyone shares power and data.
More democratic, in a way.
Yeah, that sounds promising for privacy.
It does.
Are there any real-world examples of this working?
The Helium network is a great example.
Okay.
It uses blockchain
Right.
to get people to host hotspots. So it's a crowdsourced network for IoT devices.
Okay.
And it's growing fast.
It's like a movement, almost,
Kind of, yeah.
for a more decentralized, secure IoT.
Yeah, exactly.
But are there any downsides to this approach?
Oh, of course, there are always challenges
Like,
here.
how do you manage a network that's so spread out?
Yeah, that's one thing.
Okay.
Making sure it's reliable,
Right.
that it performs well.
Yeah.
When you're relying on individuals.
Yeah.
And then there's governance, right?
Who makes the rules?
Yeah. Who's in charge of making sure it's used responsibly?
These are big questions.
They are, yeah.
It sounds like decentralized networks could be a solution
Yeah.
to some of these privacy and security worries with IoT.
Mm-hmm.
But they come with their own set of complications.
It's a trade-off, like anything else.
Right, nothing's perfect, but at least we have options.
You do, yeah.
We're not stuck with this one way of doing things
Nope, not at all.
if it's not working for us.
Right.
I'm glad we're talking about these alternatives.
Me too.
But before we wrap up, I want to come back to us,
Okay.
human element, in this world where everything's connected.
Yeah.
Our homes, our cars, even our bodies.
Right.
What happens to our sense of privacy?
That's a deep question.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just data and tech specs.
Okay.
It's about our basic right to privacy.
Yeah.
What kind of future we want.
Right.
Do we want constant tracking and analysis?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we want tech that helps us,
Yeah.
but also respects our freedom as individuals?
Those are important things to think about.
Absolutely.
As we keep going with this deep dive,
Mhm.
let's keep that human element in mind.
Yeah.
We'll look closer at the ethics,
Okay.
the potential for good and bad,
Right.
and what it all means to live in this world where the Internet of Things is just everywhere. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the Internet of Things.
We have.
The good, the bad, the kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Definitely.
But as we wrap things up,
Yeah.
I want to talk about something that's been on my mind.
Okay.
This idea of IoT leading to either like empowerment
Mhm.
or control.
Right.
Can you unpack that a little? Like, what would that look like in our daily lives?
Sure. Let's start with the good stuff, the empowering side.
Okay.
Imagine sensors in your house
Yeah.
that are tracking your health,
Okay.
and they can warn you about problems before they get serious.
Oh, wow.
Think about what that could mean for healthcare,
Right. Yeah.
especially for people with chronic conditions.
It's a huge difference.
Or think about smart cities,
Okay. Yeah.
using data to make traffic flow better,
Hmm?
reduce pollution, make things safer.
So it's about using data to actually improve things,
Exactly.
make our lives better, make our communities better,
It's like having a personal assistant.
work in the background.
Yeah, keeping everything running smoothly.
Okay, but what about the flip side? How could IoT be used to control people?
All right, let's say your insurance company
Okay.
uses data from your fitness tracker
Oh,
to change your premiums,
okay. Yeah.
penalizing you if you're not active enough.
Right. That's kind of messed up.
Or imagine a government
Yeah.
using facial recognition everywhere
Oh.
to track people's movements.
So like a surveillance state.
Basically, yeah.
Their freedoms are gone.
It's a scary thought.
It is. It's like a fine line
It is a very fine line.
between helpful tech
Yeah,
and creepy surveillance.
absolutely.
How do we stop that from happening?
It comes down to choices, really.
Okay.
The tech itself isn't good or bad.
Right.
It's how we use it,
Okay.
how we design it, what
Yeah.
rules we put in place.
So it's on us
It is, yeah.
to make sure IoT empowers us and doesn't take away our freedom.
Exactly.
Sounds like we need like a digital bill of rights
Yeah, I like that.
for the IoT age.
Some guidelines to make sure things are fair.
Transparent. But what can we do
Yeah.
as individuals?
Well, first, be informed
Right.
before you buy that smart device.
Yeah.
Do your research. What data does it collect?
Mm-hmm.
How's it used? Who can see it?
Right.
And most importantly, do you agree to those terms?
Okay, so be picky.
Be picky, yeah.
Choose stuff that matches your values,
Exactly.
but it feels like it's bigger than just our individual choices.
It is, yeah.
We need to be talking about this as a society.
Having a conversation
Exact.
about the future we want.
Okay, so what can we do to be part of that conversation?
Speak up. Support organizations fighting for digital rights.
Okay.
Hold our leaders accountable.
Make sure they're making laws that protect us.
Exactly. The future of this tech isn't set in stone.
Okay.
It's up to all of us.
That's a powerful thought.
We have more power than we think.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on.
It is.
We've covered so much
a lot of ground.
the history of IoT.
hmm
All the amazing things it can do,
Yeah,
but also the very real dangers.
for sure.
And hopefully our listeners are feeling more informed,
I hope so.
more prepared to navigate this whole world.
That's the goal.
We've talked about the
The
possibility,
good and the bad,
the power of tech.
and the importance of using it
So
responsibly.
yeah, the conversation doesn't end here.
It doesn't.
Keep learning. Keep asking questions.
Stay curious
Yeah.
about this ever-changing world of the Internet of Things.
And make your choices count.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Internet of Things.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time. Hey, it's